You scroll through your morning feed, right? And on one screen, you're looking at this really high-stakes diplomatic meeting in the Middle East.
Hmm.
Then on the next screen, there is a breakdown of some massive electricity bill for a new artificial intelligence data center.
Oh, yeah.
And then, right after that, an email drops in from your own IT department about some new automated workflow tool they're rolling out at your office.
Right. The usual morning overload.
Exactly. And it is so easy to treat these like completely isolated events, like they belong in separate filing cabinets in your brain. Politics goes in one, technology in another, and your day job is just, in a third.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is entirely human to compartmentalize information that way.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of data we process every single day,
Yeah,
it almost requires us to put things into these neat little boxes just to function.
for sure.
But looking at the updates for Wednesday, June 24, 2026, the data paints a very different picture. Those walls are completely imaginary.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission today is to sift through the daily tech reader for June 24th. And we are not just giving you a rundown of headlines, we are really trying to connect the dots.
Right.
We want to show you exactly how, a shipping lane in the Strait of Hormuz directly dictates the price of the semiconductor chips rendering the summer blockbuster you might go see this weekend.
It's a wild chain of events, really.
It is. And to do that, we have to start with the absolute loudest noise in the markets right now, which is AI infrastructure. But I don't want to talk about software or algorithms.
No, we're way past just the software.
Exactly. I want to talk about concrete and steel and high voltage power lines.
Yeah, and that physical reality is really the defining bottleneck of the tech sector right now.
Yeah.
Because for years, the industry relied on this ethereal concept of the cloud. It sounds weightless,
Right. Like it's just floating up there.
Exactly, like something floating invisibly above us. But the infrastructure spending data right now, it tells a story of massive, heavy, physically grounded industrialization.
Huge industrialization.
The major hyperscalers are just deploying capital at a staggering rate for large-scale data center expansions.
And when you look at the market's laser focus on earnings reports from semiconductor firms like Micron, for example, they aren't looking at software adoption rates.
No, not at all.
They are measuring the health of a literal, physical, concrete, and steel build-out.
Right.
It makes me think of an analogy, actually.
Hear it.
Well, the current AI boom feels exactly like everyone on Earth deciding to buy a massive fleet of really high-performance electric vehicles on the exact same day.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Right. Only for us to collectively realize that nobody actually built enough power plants or charging stations to plug them into.
That's spot on.
The cloud is not in the sky. It is a heavy, heat-generating, super power-hungry beast sitting right on the ground.
Well, and to build on your EV analogy, imagine if those cars also had to run at 200 miles an hour, 247 without ever turning off.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That is what a cluster of GPUs doing AI training is like, compared to a traditional cloud server that just, handles website traffic.
Because a regular server just kind of sits there most of the time, right?
Exactly. A traditional server sits idle a lot, but an AI cluster never sleeps. It operates at maximum capacity constantly.
Which means a ton of heat.
So much heat. And the heat it generates requires next-level liquid cooling systems, which requires complex plumbing, which, requires even more power to pump.
Which brings us right to the physical wall this digital revolution is smashing into. Energy.
Yeah.
The electricity demand forecasts driven by these data centers, they're forcing utilities into a near panic.
Panic is the right word.
You have grid infrastructure that typically takes a decade to permit and build, but the tech sector is knocking on the door demanding that capacity in 18 months.
And that mismatch shifting the entire policy landscape around energy. We're seeing grid modernization projects expanding aggressively.
Massive battery storage deployments, too.
Right. And perhaps most tellingly, significant policy support for nuclear energy.
Wait, really? And nuclear is making that big of a comeback?
Oh, absolutely. The tech giants are realizing that the only way to get continuous, zero-carbon baseload power to run these 247 facilities is nuclear.
That makes sense.
It is no longer a fringe idea. It's becoming a foundational requirement for industrial electrification at this massive scale.
But pouring all this concrete and burning all this power, that isn't cheap.
Far from it.
All of this physical infrastructure costs an absolute fortune, and that has to filter down to the balance sheet somehow.
It does. It fundamentally changes the enterprise economics of AI. We are seeing a very distinct transition from pure hype to strict utility.
Like Less playing around, more business.
Exactly. A year ago, companies were just experimenting. Now, businesses are looking at their monthly compute bills and demanding clearer pricing structures.
They want to see the ROI.
They want measurable ROI. This is why usage-based AI pricing is gaining serious traction right now. The foundation models themselves are increasingly having to compete on cost efficiency, not just raw computational horsepower.
So if your model is, say, 5% smarter but costs 3 times as much to run because of all that energy consumption.
It's going to lose.
Huh.
It'll lose in the enterprise market. Energy consumption is now a fundamental unit of software economics.
Wow. So we have all this massive energy-intensive infrastructure pulling power from the grid, demanding liquid cooling and nuclear support.
Right.
But it isn't being built just to sit there humming in a dark room. The compute power is actually being translated into human application.
It is.
And if we follow that electricity straight out of the data center and into the workplace, the culture, and our biology, the ripple effects are pretty wild.
The workplace transformation is really where you see the immediate return on that compute.
Yeah, let's talk about the office.
AI is aggressively reshaping knowledge work roles, particularly in software development.
Yeah.
AI coding assistants are basically commoditizing boilerplate code.
Right, developers aren't writing the basic stuff anymore.
Exactly. And multimodal AI is becoming standard across platforms, allowing workers to process documents, audio meetings, and visual data all simultaneously.
Just a massive productivity boost.
And we're also seeing a rapid expansion of edge AI adoption.
Okay, clarify that for me, meaning the processing is moving off those massive centralized servers and happening directly on your phone or your laptop.
Exactly the point. By moving the processing to the edge, companies reduce latency to zero, which is critical for things like autonomous systems.
Oh, sure. A self-driving car can't wait for a server in another state to tell it to brake.
Right, and they bypass the massive bandwidth costs of constantly sending data back and forth to the cloud.
Makes total sense.
But what is really revealing here is how this tech is shifting the labor market. Technology hiring remains highly selective right now.
Which is interesting given the boom.
Yeah, we are seeing a distinct shift toward skills-based hiring over traditional credentialing.
I have to push back here a little bit, though, because there feels like a glaring contradiction in the landscape.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, if AI is suddenly so capable, if it can write software code, automate knowledge work, and process all this data, why are employers so desperately seeking AI-literate workers?
That's a fair question.
Why is corporate upskilling such a massive priority? Like, is this technology actually replacing jobs, or is it just drastically raising the baseline of what it means to be a competent worker?
The debate over long-term technological unemployment is definitely ongoing, but the immediate hiring data leans heavily toward your second point.
Okay.
The clear trend right now is employers focusing on AI-assisted productivity gains.
Got it.
Think about it this way. AI doesn't replace the need for a software architect. It makes a single architect capable of doing the work of 3 junior developers.
Yeah, right.
But that architect needs to know how to orchestrate the AI agents. That is why skills-based hiring is surging.
So a college degree matters less than a portfolio demonstrating, how to build and govern these automated workflows.
Precisely. You aren't necessarily competing against an algorithm. You are competing against another worker who knows how to leverage that algorithm better than you do.
Which perfectly explains why cybersecurity talent shortages are persisting so stubbornly.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if a bad actor is using AI to write malware or automate phishing attacks at 10 times the normal speed, you need human defenders who are equally augmented to govern the enterprise systems.
And that maps directly onto the stabilization of hybrid work models, too.
How so?
Well, for years, the physical perimeter of the office was constantly shifting. People were remote, then hybrid, then back to the office.
Right. Nobody knew where the office actually ended.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now that hybrid work has largely stabilized, IT departments finally know where the borders of their networks are, and they are deploying these AI governance tools to lock them down.
It's fascinating. And, outside the office, this compute power is altering our culture and our biology, too.
Oh, the cultural shift is huge.
In the entertainment sphere, the creator economy is still surging. Podcast audiences are growing, and you have Hollywood and the music industry actively wrestling with AI production tools.
Yeah, the disruption there is very real.
But at the exact same time, traditional human-centric entertainment is thriving.
It is, which surprised a lot of people.
Right. Live entertainment attendance is incredibly healthy. The World Cup storylines are dominating global conversations, and the summer movie season is huge right now.
People still want the real thing.
It seems like the more AI generates our digital content, the more we crave actual physical human connection in a stadium or a theater.
That premium on human connection is so real. But honestly, the most profound application of this computing power is undoubtedly in health and medicine.
Oh, for sure.
AI-assisted diagnostics are moving from just experimental phases to broader real-world adoption.
And when we look at drug development pipelines, AI isn't just making the paperwork faster, is it?
No. It is doing the heavy computational lifting that
Yeah.
used to take human chemists years. Like predicting the 3D folding structures of millions of proteins to find the exact molecule that will bind to a cancer cell.
That's incredible.
It is compressing years of trial and error into literally weeks.
Which explains why biotech acquisition activity is so hot right now. Big pharmaceutical companies aren't just buying drugs anymore.
No, they're buying data.
Right. They are buying the proprietary biological data that those smaller biotech firms hold so they can feed it into their AI models to train them.
That data is the new oil for precision medicine. And we're seeing these advancements collide directly with demographic realities.
Like the aging population.
Exactly. Aging population challenges are heavily influencing healthcare planning globally. You cannot physically build enough hospitals or train enough nurses to care for the incoming wave of elderly patients in a lot of developed nations.
So what's the solution?
We are seeing a massive expansion in remote patient monitoring. They're using edge AI on wearable devices to predict a cardiac event before the patient even needs to go to the emergency room.
Man, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Okay.
All of this, the data center expansions, the nuclear power deals, the precision medicine, the edge AI, it all relies on a highly fragile foundation.
Very fragile.
It relies entirely on global stability, functioning supply chains, and the frictionless flow of capital.
Right.
And that brings us to the volatile global chessboard.
Because technology does not exist in a vacuum. It is heavily dependent on the physical world.
Yep.
Right now, one of the most critical variables for the tech sector is global diplomacy. Specifically, U.S. and Iran negotiators are reporting progress toward a framework agreement, with Qatar acting as a key intermediary.
And the White House is heavily emphasizing this diplomatic path.
Right.
And look, looking at this objectively, just by the numbers, and totally impartial to the politics of it, the political realities of these negotiations are massive market drivers.
Unquestionably.
The shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is highly sensitive to these talks.
Yeah.
And if you were sitting there wondering why an AI developer in Silicon Valley cares about the Strait of Hormuz,
It's the oil. It's because a significant portion of the world's oil moves through that choke point. If diplomacy fails and shipping is disrupted, energy prices spike.
and as we established in Section 1, energy is now the fundamental cost of running an AI data center.
Exactly.
But it goes even deeper than just the price of oil. It is the butterfly effect of global friction.
Tell me about that.
Well, all these data centers require immense physical resources, specialized silicon, copper, cooling equipment, which means they are highly vulnerable to supply chain shocks.
And right now, that supply chain is navigating an absolute minefield.
Oh yeah, you have Ukraine intensifying drone operations against Russian targets, which further rattles energy markets.
Right.
Simultaneously, a severe European heat wave is physically disrupting transportation networks. Rivers run low, barges can't move materials, train tracks actually warp from the heat.
So a heat wave in Europe literally means a vital component gets delayed, which means a server rack in Texas can't be completed on time.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, humanitarian agencies are waving red flags about worsening food insecurity globally.
Yeah.
And back here in the U.S., severe storms are threatening the Midwest. Housing affordability remains this incredibly stubborn challenge. And Congress is debating defense spending and border policy.
And again, from a purely data-driven perspective, all of this creates macroeconomic friction.
And that friction dictates the flow of capital.
Yes, it does. Federal Reserve officials are maintaining a very cautious outlook on inflation, keeping Treasury yields elevated.
The markets are watching the calendar so closely, obsessing over September rate cut expectations.
Because when interest rates are high, borrowing money is expensive. That puts immense pressure on those hyperscalers and AI startups we talked about.
Their technological ROI has to outpace the high cost of borrowing that capital.
Exactly. It's interconnected risk on a staggering scale. You cannot look at the tech sector without looking at the energy sector.
Right.
And you cannot look at the energy sector without looking at the Strait of Hormuz or inflation data.
Cybersecurity officials are actively warning of these growing supply chain vulnerabilities, even as the country continues preparations for America's 250th anniversary.
It is a dizzying amount of gridlock to manage here on Earth.
Dizzying is right. The complexity is overwhelming. Investors are being forced into a very difficult balancing act, assessing global economic growth signals while scrutinizing the profitability metrics of every single silicon chip.
Right.
But, what strikes me is the contrast.
How so?
While humanity is busy managing all this earthly friction, the supply chains, the weather events, the delicate diplomatic dances, we are simultaneously pushing the absolute boundaries of what is physically possible.
We're looking outward.
Yes, we're looking outward.
The friction of Earth stands in stark contrast to the frictionless vacuum of space.
Beautifully put.
The financing activity and valuation discussions around SpaceX, they remain a massive dominant story in both technology and finance.
Commercial space investment broadly is just incredibly strong right now.
Very strong. And it isn't just commercial.
Right. NASA is continuing its preparations for future lunar missions, and long-term planning for Mars exploration is actually advancing.
And you've got Amazon's satellite initiatives gaining serious momentum too.
I look at this and I don't just see science experiments anymore.
What do you see?
I see the building of the transcontinental railroads.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. SpaceX, Amazon, these commercial space investments, they are laying down the heavy foundational infrastructure for a completely new off-world economy.
Well, the infrastructure phase is always the most capital intensive, and it often happens in the background before the explosion of consumer applications. We are basically laying the rails.
Yeah.
But the frontier extends beyond just space. In the realm of deep science, the advancements are equally staggering.
What are we seeing there?
Fusion energy startups continue to attract massive funding rounds. Quantum computing investment remained incredibly steady.
Astronomy research has just produced new exoplanet discoveries, too.
Right, and advanced materials research is gaining real momentum.
And this is where the entire picture converges.
Bring it together.
The AI revolution we talked about in Section 1, the one causing all those energy headaches on Earth, is the exact engine driving this deep science forward.
It acts as a massive accelerant. AI-assisted scientific discovery is expanding so rapidly.
It's the tool that maps the genome faster.
Exactly. It designs the heat-resistant, advanced materials needed for spacecraft, and it sifts through petabytes of astronomical data from telescopes to find the signatures of those exoplanets.
The compute power is literally the lens through which we are discovering the future.
It really is one continuous loop.
It is. Which brings us to the end of today's stack of updates.
We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. To give you a rapid-fire recap of the landscape we just traversed, we are watching a world intensely focused on the physical, concrete, and steel rollout of artificial intelligence and the massive grid-straining energy demands that come with it.
Yep.
We are seeing that compute power fundamentally rewrite how we code software, how we hire talent, and how we predict molecular structures to fight disease.
Absolutely.
And we are watching all of this unfold while carefully navigating a highly delicate global chessboard where U.S.-Iran diplomacy, European heat waves, and inflation data dictate the very supply chains and capital that keep this whole tech revolution running.
The contrast is what makes this exact moment in time so unique.
Yeah.
We are reaching for Mars and actively funding fusion energy while simultaneously struggling with supply chains disrupted by severe weather and the basic everyday realities of housing affordability.
It's a lot to hold in your head at once.
It is. The future is arriving at an incredible speed, but it is demanding a tremendous amount of physical, earthly resources to sustain itself.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to ponder as you go about your day. I'll let my co-host take this one because it really reframes everything we've talked about during this deep dive.
Well, we've seen how artificial intelligence requires vast, unprecedented amounts of continuous electricity.
Right.
And we've seen how our global supply chains and energy grids are incredibly sensitive to geopolitical weather, diplomatic negotiations, and physical climate events.
Yep.
So, as we look to the horizon, will the ultimate winners of the AI age actually be the companies that write the smartest algorithms? Or will the true winners simply be the nations that manage to secure the most abundant, secure, and uninterrupted power supplies?
That is the big question.
Because a brilliant algorithm is completely useless if you can't afford to turn the machine on.
So true. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep connecting the dots and keep questioning the world around you.